Hey Cormac, how you keeping, mate?
Keeping very well, thanks. Yes, all good.
Glad to hear it. So you've already just launched the deluxe edition of White Feather. What made you come out with the deluxe edition after the sort of standard edition last year?
Um, well, shortly after the standard edition went out, which is just a UK and Ireland release at the time, a record label in Australia came on board called Social Family, and
Oh, okay.
uh, we got our heads together and decided that we were going to do a proper kind of worldwide release,
Yeah.
Um, so that kind of led to gathering together all the extra bonus material and the updated artwork and stuff, and give me an opportunity to finally get the record out in vinyl as well.
Yeah.
So I suppose the original release was kind of just a precursor to the main event.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just delighted that some of the material that didn't make it onto the original 10 tracker has made it onto this one, because like any artist will tell you, you end a record cycle with an awful lot of material that kind of tends to fall by the wayside,
Yeah.
never to see the light of day, and it's no reflection on the quality of the songs. Usually it's just there's not enough space
Not
and
much
time
space.
in the world. So yeah.
So it's something. Obviously, you got sometimes you got to make a change, and Blue Beyond the Grey, the two new songs on it. Had they been recorded as part of the initial recording session for the standard release then?
There were, yeah. So yeah, there's Blue Beyond the Grey. Sometimes you got to make a change, and then there were three original kind of bonus special edition tracks as well that didn't kind of fall into the original album model. So Whole Again, Everywhere But Here, and What You Do to Me as well. So there was a whole bunch of material that like I say I recorded, but you kind of need to, whenever you're trying to narrow it down to 10 tracks, you need to kind of grasp the bigger picture, the bigger statement that you're trying to make, and for one reason or another, those songs didn't quite get on there. But all really strong songs that definitely kind of hold a place in my heart, so be interested to see what people think of those ones, especially the album buyers out there that have heard the first time round, and to see if it kind of, suppose, I know as a listener and a fan myself, whenever you get to hear some of the bonus material that wasn't initially included, you get to see different tangents kind of springing out with regards to where the album's coming from and what it was trying to say.
Definitely. I think, like you say, it's going to sound like a daft way to describe it, but the only way I can describe it is like, for me, I'd heard the standard edition. I bought that last year. Had that on pre-order. Fantastic record. Absolutely love White Feather, mate. Been a fan of yours for many years. But when I listened to the deluxe edition with the extra tracks, it's like when you've watched a film and you go, that is a brilliant film, and you love it, and then you see the director's cut, and it's just those little moments that sort of make a bigger picture, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense, and I kind of, as soon as you started talking there, I thought you're gonna hit me with a film analogy, because I very much share that opinion, and it's exactly what it's like. Yeah,
as long as I'm not just talking nonsense
then. No, not at all. I'm with you. I'm on the same page.
Glad to hear. Like you say, obviously a lot of the songs on there are very personal to you, man. It's a real personal record, a proper songwriter's album. Were any of the songs particularly hard to write or perform in any way at all?
Yeah, definitely some songs kind of seem to come together much quicker than others. But yeah, Everywhere But Here, actually, one of the bonus tracks I wrote about my dad. And my dad's passed away a good few years now, and I always had this memory in my head of myself and my mum clearing out. Shortly after my dad passed away, my mum wanted to get in a new kitchen because it was plans that they had made together, and she wanted to follow through. And I remember the evening that herself and myself cleared out the kitchen. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, because
Yeah.
every drawer he opened, there was a photo or a note
There's
or
something
or a
there.
birthday card, that just brought it all flooding back. So I remember it was an unbelievable, but then it was also something I realized that had to be done. You got to move on and not dwell too much in the past. But um, it always stuck in my memory. Like, and for one reason or another, I sat down with a couple of friends in Nashville and started telling them this story, and we ended up writing a song about it. And it was just a very, very emotional write.
Yeah.
It was really hard. I was saying some stuff that I hadn't really ever spoken out loud before, let alone put it into a song. So that was one of the trickier ones emotionally to kind of come out the other side with a song in it. But that was kind of the way this album went. I did do some serious kind of soul searching, and I think the result is for me anyway, regardless of what other people think, it's a very powerful experience. The writing process is very powerful, and the end result is something that holds a lot of weight and a lot of power for me personally.
I think when you wear your heart on your sleeve as much as you have on this album, it would be difficult for anyone not to connect with it. When there's so much human emotion involved in that thing, I think people would they wouldn't have a heart if they didn't connect with this album, to be honest.
Well, I kind of like to think that where they are very personal stories, I've presented them in a way that people can hopefully relate to them. I mean, a song like "Broken Wing," I want parents who maybe have a child with a disability to listen to that and be able to, hopefully at least relate to it, if not maybe get a bit of hope from it, to know that, there's like, I remember whenever I was going through that experience firsthand, I would have bit your arm off to talk to someone who was, maybe at least a couple of years down the line and going through a similar experience, to tell me that it was all going to be okay, and not just it was all going to be okay, it was going to be absolutely amazing, and there's songs in there that hopefully I've presented them in a way that you can kind of tap into the message of the song.
Yeah. How is your son doing?
Doing great. Got pupil of the week last week in school.
Oh, good man.
And he's got a 2-year-old brother now as well. So
nice.
Twice the trouble. And
power duo.
They're both doing great. It was got pretty intense in the midst of the first lockdown now, whenever you weren't allowed childminders, and his mother and myself were kind of just like passing our children from one to the other over the course of the day, so we could go upstairs and do a bit of work, But no, I can't complain. My family are healthy and happy, so it's all good.
That's good, man. I'm glad to hear that, pal. It's funny you mentioned about your dad earlier, because I got to say, before we got into other things, I too lost my dad a few years ago to cancer. And one of the songs that helped me through it was a song of yours, actually. It was The Answers, Can't Remember, Can't Forget.
Okay.
That song means a lot to me, so I want to thank you for that on a personal note, brother.
Oh, thank you, man. I mean, that actually is another song that was indeed written about my dad,
Oh, okay.
Kind of the only, I think it's really, there's a few Answer songs where it's definitely been in my mind when I've been writing the lyric, but that one and Everywhere But Here, the two songs, I suppose, in my life that have really directly tried to address some of the emotions running through my head, So I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, thank you, man, because it helped me out a lot. As I say, it's I love the story of the title White Feather, and the title. Well, I love the title White Feather and the story behind it. For any of our listeners who don't know the story, would you like to tell it?
Sure. I think I've told it a few hundred times already. Might as well tell it again. The White Feather. The subject matter of the song, it kind of it'll make more sense when you hear the song. But whenever my wife Louise was pregnant with Dad, only like 2 or maybe 3 weeks tops pregnant, she was rushed in the hospital as by her side, obviously, and we were told that it was most likely an ectopic pregnancy, which would have meant we'd lost the baby, and also that Louise's health would have been at risk as well. But Louise was straight into surgery at that point and came out the other side a few hours later the surgeon emerged to tell me that it wasn't what they thought it was, but that it was too early in the pregnancy to know whether the baby was still alive, and to come back in 2 weeks' time when hopefully the baby would be developed enough to be able to find a heartbeat on the scanning machine or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was a long old 2 weeks, you know, and the night before we went to go into the hospital, I went for a walk up into the mountains near where we were living at the time, in Northern Ireland, and I was kind of having a very, very pissed off conversation, you know, very annoyed with the world and everything that we were going through at that point in time, and I was just basically shouting up to the clouds, you know, if there's anybody, anything out there, give me a sign that this is going to be okay. One of those conversations. And just as I was having that conversation, I was stopped dead in my tracks, and about 20 yards up into the tree, so well off the beaten track, there was this little splash of white, and I just wanted to go up and find out what it was really, and it was a white feather, and I couldn't believe it because, like, my whole life I've been brought up to believe that white feathers represent new life. So literally just as I asked for this sign, this white feather appeared in the trees, and I took it home, said to Louise about it, think it's going to be okay, you know. And the next morning we went into the hospital, and up on the scanning machine, it was literally like a mustard seed with this gigantic heartbeat, the biggest heartbeat you've ever seen. And yeah, I suppose the rest is history. That mustard seed got pupil of the week last week. So,
good on that mustard.
All good.
Good on him. So on the Saturday, 5th of December, you're playing the Belfast Barge in support, obviously, of the deluxe edition. Is that the first time playing in front of a live audience since this whole lockdown?
I was lucky enough to get one gig in over the summer whenever it was allowed. It was in like a car park and all done, you know, properly, socially.
Sorry,
right.
I can go away. Sorry about that.
No problem. So I was lucky enough just to get one live gig in over the summer in a car park whenever, and just myself and the acoustic and a stop box. So it was good. It was a good big long gig. You know, people were ready for a bit of live music, so it was a great opportunity to kind of play some of this stuff live again. But the gig on the barge on the 5th of December they've actually added the Friday night as well to it as well.
Okay.
Tickets, it's quite limited numbers of tickets, so they sold out really quickly, you know. And so I'm getting 2 bites at it now in a couple of weeks' time, and I can't wait, man. I do every Saturday night. I do an online gig called Cocoon.
Yeah, the Cocoon sessions. I've been watching them.
Yes, so that's like a virtual in the round. Myself, another friend of mine called Matt again, and we get 2 or 3 artists from around the world generally to play a couple of songs each, and it passes around. And there is a live element to it because obviously people are watching in real time, and the same stuff can go wrong. And that's been nice, and it's kind of kept me sane and kept me in touch with playing live, you know, rather than, you know, everything being too polished and everything else. I like the kind of the rough around the edges nature of live performance, you know. And I've been lucky enough to have that throughout. It'll be, I think, episode 34 coming up this weekend, you know. So there's been a lot of that, but at the same time, you can't substitute playing in a room with other people.
No.
And I think, you know, the one positive to take out of it all is that myself and millions of musicians will never take that for granted. Not that I did initially, but we'll appreciate it even more whenever life returns to normal.
I don't think us punters in the crowd will take it for granted either. I mean, the last gig that I went to before lockdown was Winter's End Festival, where, of course, I saw your set as well. And that it was literally just like, obviously, as you know, a few weeks later, the whole lockdown thing kicked in, and that was the last show I went to. A physical show anyway. I've watched stream things, but for me, going from February to now November with no, like you say, being in the room live music that's a long time for me.
Yeah, but hopefully something weird and brilliant comes from it all, you know, like whereby people just, when days gone by and there's a gig on on a Tuesday night and it's raining outside and maybe you go, maybe you won't, and maybe you didn't go. Hopefully now people will go to those gigs, you know,
I think so, man. Yeah,
and that the whole scene kind of comes back with even more momentum than it had beforehand.
I think so. Like you said, I think everyone's craving the live music scene again, both yourselves as performers and us in the crowd. And like you say, I think no matter what date, time, or where the gig is going to be, I think you're guaranteed that any true music fan is going to be chomping at the bit like we all are to see some live music again.
Yeah, for sure.
So, how was Witness End for you, though, man?
Yeah, it was great. Jeez, seems like a lifetime ago now, doesn't it? That was my last live gig as well before it all kicked off. If I had known that, I would have played for longer. It was really lovely actually, because I mean, you know yourself, Winter's End is high octane rock and roll from start to finish. And there's a few songs in my solo set that maybe isn't that, and I thought rather than pandering, I get up there and with my band and we give them kind of the full taste of what White Feather is all about and see if the audience like it or not. And I got a great response. You know, I felt an awful lot of
the crowd was loving it, mate. So
a lot of love there, you know, and I think, you know, similarly in gigs I got. I mean, the Answer had a similar experience in Wacken whenever it was all, you know, metal and death metal and every type of metal. A blues rock band got up and did their thing, and it went down really well because it was a little kind of break from the onslaught that the festival had on its lineup from Friday to Sunday, you know. And I suppose it was as a similar kind of vibe, similar kind of break in the fully fledged rock. So yeah, I was really happy with it all.
I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? If you're slightly different from everything else that's going on, I think that star shines a little brighter sometimes, and people do take a bit more notice because it's not exactly what everything's been going on. I mean, like I was saying, I've been a fan of you for many years, mate, so your set was always going to be a highlight for me, but the whole crowd were absolutely really enjoying it.
Yeah, no, I was really delighted, and it was just a lovely weekend as well. You know, the crowd are all, there's a very you know, bands and it's one of those festivals where the bands and the crowd are one, you know, and that always leads to a really nice positive atmosphere.
No, definitely. So what are your plans for the rest of the year and into 2021 then, mate? Obviously I know it's a bit of a weird year to try and make plans, but
yeah, you know, I mean, there's always songs to be written as well, you know, and I've a number of different projects in the mixer at the minute, one being my next solo release. I'm just kind of got a bunch of songs for that. I'm just not entirely settled on the kind of the way I want to lay them down and the way I want to interpret them, if that makes sense. So I'm working with a producer at the minute, just working through a few sonic options basically, and
which direction it's going, sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's feeling good. You know, it's feeling pretty fresh, and you know, I've been in touch with the boys in The Answer, and there's whispers in the background there as well. So there's songs getting pieced together there, which is really great, and just a whole bunch of other different, you know, co-writing situations that I've got going on with people, you know, writing for other people and stuff, and just keeping busy as well. I mean, I do some vocal coaching from this spare room as well, you know, which is I really enjoy, and do some songwriting coaching with some students and stuff, and just keeping as busy as I can.
Yeah. So I did.
And then, sorry, I should say then, you know, whenever it does all come back to life again, the live scene, all my festivals from this summer have been pushed back to next summer. So I suppose on from a live angle, I'm just kind of biding my time until those floodgates open up again, and I'll be ready to go, you know.
Another jam-packed year for next year then, fingers crossed.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, I did hear the rumours, obviously, before lockdown, that the answer machine was sort of those cogs were starting to whir again. So how close or how true were those rumours?
Yeah, there's definitely truth in it. Yes. I don't want to say too much other than like the answer in a really good place right now, and
Good,
also the world being how it is, there's not really much point in saying too much at this stage. But
no,
when the time is right, there will be there's lots of stuff to look forward to. Is that cryptic enough for you?
just cryptic enough for radio, yeah. But I thought, like, I mean, I've been the first hour I got with into you was Classic Rock Magazine, and they had 3 CDs you get, and they've been sort of promoting you guys, and I hadn't heard you at that point. And Never Too Late was on this free CD, and I was like, I'm a blues rock fan, I'm a hard rock fan, a bluesgrass fan. So I was, as soon as I heard Never Too Late, it was like, need to go get this album. And then some friends, that was 2005 you released Rise, wasn't it? Was it 2006?
Yeah, could have been 2005, 2006. Yeah.
And it was really bizarre because I hadn't seen you live at that point. I bought the album before I went off to university, and I was chatting to some guys who were a couple of years older than me at the university bar one night, and we all liked similar sort of music, but we hadn't sort of spoke about you guys yet, so I didn't know that they knew you. And they were all talking about this gig that they were going to, and a mate of theirs couldn't come, and there was a ticket going, and they didn't know who was going to come. And so I asked them, who are you going to go see? And they said, we're off to see The Answer at the London Bloomsbury Ballroom Theatre. And I went, give me the ticket. Just, I'm coming. And
Brilliant.
yeah, we missed the train back to Norwich. We spent the night walking around Camden Tube Station, which was a fun place to be at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
I was glad we were slightly inebriated, otherwise I would have been a bit more terrified. But
yeah,
wow. And then
so was that the Electric Ballroom? Did you say?
Yeah, down there, man. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it was the best I've seen you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, classic rock gives a lot. Still do gives a lot of support, But I think especially in those days, like there weren't too many bands doing the whole blues rock thing,
No, there wasn't. No, not at the time.
So like I know that people did appreciate a band kind of dusting themselves off and making their way out of Belfast to try and expand that world a bit, So happy days, good times.
Right. And then I think Solus was a bit of a departure in terms of what you've been doing with like New Horizon and everything else, and Rise, of course, and Revival had always been blues, stomping, party, good time, kind of rock and roll. But Solus had a lot more. I don't want to say the other music was shallow, but there was a lot more depth in it in terms of some stuff was more kind of bluesgrassy type stuff, and that kind of a bit more what you're doing with your solo thing now. But I've got to say, as much as I love the parties, the Solus is my favourite album, man.
Oh yeah,
everything I loved up until that point, and I still do love. I love New. I'm looking at my record collection now, but I love New Horizon and Revival and Rise and Little Road to Hell, Road to Little Hell, and everything else. But when Solus came out, just because it was that left turn compared to what you guys had been doing, and I kind of got the album thinking I knew what to expect, and then I knew that I was going to love it. But I think that is your strongest album, to be honest.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that, and it was a big call to go somewhere different because it was our 6th album, and I think that was one of the reasons why we decided to do something different, because you kind of got the impression people were thinking they knew what to expect.
Yeah.
When really, I mean, with our albums, there's always a song or two in there that hopefully people aren't expecting at all, So it was kind of like going to that place for an entire record, and it's one of those albums that I'm sure it asked a few questions of some of our hardened rocker fans, but it was one that had to be made, and also kind of clears the deck a bit, because with the next album, and given that we've been away from the scene for a couple of years, hopefully it leaves people guessing as to what to expect on the next release, when that should be.
Definitely. Like I say, you've got those extra couple of aces up your sleeve on that one there.
Oh yes, always.
So finally, mate, what song of yours would you like us to play to air this interview out on? I'm going to open up with "Oh Son" because that's my favourite off of White Feather,
Cool.
and then yeah, leave the one airing out onto your choice, mate.
Let's go for a bit of "Do Something Today." I just think it's a good mantra for the world we're living in right now. Whenever it's hard to do anything on a normal day.
Sure is.
But you got to work hard at doing something, you know. So that should be it. It shot a really great video just before lockdown for that one as well.
Yeah, the video.
It's on my YouTube channel, you know, and if your listeners are into it, it'd be cool to check out the video as well.
Sweet. Well, yeah, we'll go with that then. Thanks for your time, man. I really appreciate this.
Thanks, man. Nice talking to you.
You too, man. And hopefully some point next year I'll see you out on the road, mate.
Definitely, mate. Thanks for that. Enjoyed that.
Cheers, buddy. Take care.
Okay, take care, buddy. Bye.
Bye, man.